Hello, my name is Oluremi Martins, founder Natural Girl Wigs, a hair company that provides textured hair for Black women. I'd really just want to share that, the dream of building a company, especially like a digital focused company, can be achieved by anyone. All you need to do is understand the basics and also, your passion. If you're really building a company that sort of resonates with your passion, your own needs as well, you can connect with thousands and millions of people who are just like you. The beautiful thing about the internet is that you can always create a community and connect with people globally, irrespective of where you're from. And I would really just want to share my journey so that people can understand that if I can do this, you can do this as well. Hello, welcome to Art of the Matter. Today I'm going to be speaking with Tosin about finance and also corporate governance amongst other issues. Tosin, when it comes to financial responsibility, I would say that you know your honey on it, and also regarding money. So how can businesses be more money savvy during this COVID period? People are having to deal with all that kinds of financial responsibilities and also managing, changes in their workflows. How can businesses be more money savvy?
I want us to jump right into talking about what is a business money anyways before we go into it. So we have three broad categories. For any business, they're asking themselves, do I have a balance sheet? Do I have an income statement? Do I have a cash flow? So I'm going to start with an income statement. The income statement basically captures what the profit of that company is. And you'd be surprised that, yes, we're talking about this, but how many small businesses actually keep records of their sales? So basically, an income statement shows you the flow. This is how much I'm making as sales. This is what I'm making as my cost of sales. These are my expenses, and this is my profit. This is a very, very important conversation. We put up a video about a few days ago, and an entrepreneur was talking about her numbers. She knew it by heart. Many people were in the comment section said, oh, you knew something that little, and we need to start capturing it. So if an entrepreneur was previously never capturing their numbers, this is the best time to start. Also, they don't even need a fancy software. They can actually start with an Excel sheet. And as the company grows and gets bigger, then they can get something more sophisticated. So for instance, let's say there are about 5 or 10 people on the team. Somebody should be allocated the job of writing it down. As much as possible, if you can separate the person that is writing down the expenses from the person that is spending it, it helps. Because if one person is doing both, there's a chance that there could be some misappropriations there. So being able to separate those duties. So how do we keep an income statement? Every time the sales come in, are we issuing invoices to customers? Do you know that a customer actually takes you seriously? Something as little as issuing an invoice. I know there are lots of apps that helps. Wave, what app do you guys use for your company?
We use our own designs, but in the beginning we used to use Wave.
Exactly. So there's Wave, and there are other things out there that can just help issue an invoice. Also helps you keep track. So you can tell that, that last month we made very good income. This month is not that great. You can't measure what you do not track. So we've spoken about an income statement. It tells us what is happening, shows us the flow, gives us anticipation. We can even know that, January is my best month, March is not so great, and it tells us the story. Balance sheet on the other side is giving us a snapshot. It's like a flicker, just one snapshot. It tells us about the health and the state of that company. So for instance, we have the assets, we have the liabilities, and we also have the equity. So the balance sheet tells us the snapshot and gives us a picture of what the books look like. Many companies actually have assets, but they're not recording them as assets. So anything that you're going to hold for over a year, those are the things that you can actually see as assets. So it is very hard to be a financially responsible company if you're actually not tracking your numbers. So the very first place to start is to track it. So once you track it, you can now start seeing how can we get more efficient. The other time we're looking at our books, we noticed that we were spending quite a good amount of money on what? Media. Hi, my name is Tosin Olasende. I'm the founder of Money Africa. So Money Africa is a financial literacy platform, and that's basically what we do. We enjoy to teach people about their money to help them approach financial independence. Okay, so I got my first degree at the age of 20 and I worked in South Africa. For the first 4 years, I was living from hand to mouth. And after I relocated back to Nigeria, I remember my mom giving me money in church as offering and I was very, very upset. I told myself I never wanted that to happen again. I wanted to take charge of my money. So if you look at those that have become successful, they play the long-term game. It's like a seed. You plant the seed, you put in the water, you add some fertilizer and you wait. It won't happen overnight. So that's the biggest thing about money. For that you can't control, is really beyond you. But for those ones that you can control, we would like you to sit in the driver's seat to actually steer the wheel and take the journey by yourself.
Hello, welcome to the Heart of the Matter. With the COVID crisis and a lot of adjustments that businesses and individuals have to make, we're learning about adjusting our financial life, adjusting operations, adjusting marketing, adjusting even, new business prospects. How can businesses become more money savvy with the whole, COVID crisis and managing new things and even, controlling expenses? What advice would you give?
So I'm very excited that we're having this conversation because this is like the bloodline of a business. Every entrepreneur needs to understand their money by heart. They need to know those numbers because if anything changes in those numbers, it will decide whether they're going to live or whether they're going to die. So how can you start capturing it? You don't even need to start with this fancy software. You can actually start with an Excel sheet. How much sales are we making today? Capture it. How much did we spend on expenses? Capture it and then be able to tell what your net profit is. Another beautiful thing about capturing those numbers is it tells a story. So you can tell that, January is usually our best month in the market. Maybe March is not that great. Maybe August can do this. Also, by capturing those numbers, it tells you different things. There was a time we were looking at our numbers at work and guess what? A huge part of our resources was actually spent on the media, shooting videos, editing and all of that. So we knew that, let's build an in-house team. Because if we're spending so much money on this, what else can we do? So this story is different for every company. Once you can see that your money is going towards this thing, then you start asking yourself, how can we bring down that cost? But if you don't measure it, how can you take a decision? So that is why we always tell business owners, we don't care how small you are or how big you are, you need to be able to capture those numbers. So we've spoken about the income statement. The next one is a balance sheet. A balance sheet is like a picture, like a snapshot. It shows you.
I like that.
It shows you what is happening at a point. So you can see your assets, you can see your liabilities, you can see your equity. So a lot of companies, small businesses have assets, but they are not capturing it as assets. If something gives you value for over a year, it's an asset. Put it on your books. If you have something that is a loan that you have to pay over a year as well, capture it. So this could even be loans from friends and families, but let it be there. Also, talking about capturing numbers and putting systems in place. Many companies, some of them use Wave as an invoice, basically to just be able to help them track revenue.
Please, can you say that again for people?
Wave. Thank you. The Wave app is used for issuing an invoice. Now, the thing that happens here is that if I was dealing with two different people, maybe I saw them on Instagram. I told this one, okay, I want to buy this from you. I told the other one, I want to buy that from you. If one of them gives me an invoice and the other one does not, who am I going to take more seriously?
Obviously, the invoice.
This person with that, because now already person has shown me that, you know what, I'm here to stay. I'm here for business. So it shows seriousness. It shows I want to take them seriously. So start grabbing those numbers, start capturing it. The other time, now for this whole COVID thing, the federal government issued out a loan. But guess what? If you were not tracking your numbers, you won't access it. So there are some businesses that are even doing well, they have healthy revenue, but because there's no structure, there's no numbers, they don't get to enjoy any of those grants or resources that is targeted at SME. So please, for all the small businesses out there, this is the time to start capturing those numbers. I think that is just one thing that is very, very big. Now, the next one is cash flow. Cash flow basically tells you how much do I have as of today and how much will I be needing soon. So a perfect example is this. Let's say a company has to pay its salary at the end of the month, right? And they'll be expecting that money after 1 week. A cash flow sort of helps you to plan. So you're saying, should I go and access a bank's quick credit loan so I could quickly pay my team a salary so that when the money comes next week, we can get it? Or can I negotiate with the people owing me so that they can pay us back faster? Those kind of things. So for instance, if you were to even speak to a supplier to extend your days before payment, that's like a cheap debt. So if you don't understand cash flow, if you're not looking at your income statement, you won't be able to make the best decisions for your company. So we're very, very, very aggressive about capturing those numbers and then making better decisions.
That's very interesting. So you're saying that understanding your basics, capturing your data, and just knowing your numbers by heart will help businesses become money savvy and also help them allocate resources to the important things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because I think that, when you understand your numbers, when you know what you need money for, or the things you don't even need money for, but you're spending a lot of money on, you can adjust things appropriately. Another thing I would like us to talk about is corporate governance. With the fact that a lot of businesses have to work from home, a lot of staff, are not coming into work anymore, and things are going very digital. Do you think that, the traditional setting, the traditional system, would it still work for businesses?
So basically, corporate governance is basically how a businesses run its affairs, right? And how they then accountable to shareholders. For many small, medium-sized enterprises, they might not be shareholders. It might just be a family-owned business, or it's owned by the entrepreneur, by the founder, right? But what is the structure in place? We always tell people, are you here for the next 10 years, or is this just something that is this a side hustle, is this a business? If this business was to continue the next 10 years, do you have structure? I mean, look at businesses like that of Tara. Look at businesses that actually grew from being small, tiny babies, and then they grew and then they expanded. And this is the time to start putting it, because we always say that the tone sets the mood. So from day one, what is your tone? How do you feel about structure? Structure is very, very critical. So corporate governance basically just sets the mood. It ensures that things are in place. For many companies, they have board of directors. But for a very small company, why do you need 10 board of directors? What are you people talking about? It could be a small board. Sometimes it could be 5. It could even be 3. So look for key people that you find, that are very... Look for key different areas. So you're looking for somebody that is very understanding in the knowledge about finance. You can look at somebody in the legal space. You can look at somebody in the marketing space. Draw these heads together. Let them be able to help you in order to grow your business. Another beautiful thing about having a board of directors is that it helps accountability, because you know that once in every 3 months or once in every 6 months, you're speaking to those people. You don't have to have it, but I'm telling you that, it's actually a good option. Another one is board of advisory. I'm asking myself, you're a small company. Why do you need a board of advisory and also a board of directors? A board of directors can actually do the job of advisory as well. So the next thing we're talking about is the segregation of duties. Now, the person capturing the numbers, is that person different from the person that is actually spending that money? Just putting in little structure in place, ensuring that if a staff is doing something, that they bring out invoices before it's being cashed out. Just the little things, even like having a petrol card. So for instance, if a company does a lot of deliveries, get a petrol card so that every time the company car goes out, you're capturing the amount of money that is being spent on petrol. How about generator? You can have a structure with the petrol company so that when they are coming to deliver diesel, there's an invoice we are targeting, so we can say, this amount of diesel will last us for 1 month or for 6 weeks or so. Basically, just putting in structures to ensure that things actually run. Now, the next question they're talking about is internal controls or even external auditors. As a small company as well, maybe they're making less than 20 million naira in profit. It does not even make any sense getting an external auditor, but in-house you could actually do it, so that in a 6 months randomly somebody else from the team will go and do the procedures again. Something else like stock taking, let's go and do it again. Let's make sure that inside our house we are keeping the house clean, we are doing housekeeping. So that is basically what corporate structure is about. I don't know if you know of this story. It was in the US by Enron. Everybody colluded together, and that fraud was big. It was the Lehman Brothers. So the auditors, the banks, the senior management, everybody joined forces together, and they cheated, and there was a big fraud out there. So for lots of small businesses, while definitely the fraud might not be of that magnitude, if you don't have the structure, employees could be stealing from you. Things like stocks could be getting missing, they might be getting spoiled. So structure is very, very key, and that is basically what corporate governance tries to cover, so that you are taking responsibility, there are structures in place. Another thing also could be crisis management. We've seen a lot of companies that something happens, and how do they respond to that crisis? There's something that says that you don't go to the battle, you don't prepare for battle at the battlefront. You prepare in advance. So you know that if something happens, how would we react? If something happened with our employees, how would we react? How would we go to the market? How would we talk about it? How do people perceive our brand as a company? All these kind of things are covered under corporate governance.
I really like that point that you've made. Do you think that it would be challenging for companies to still, keep the structures of their corporate governance, separating things, even, with the fact that they're having to deal with not working together. Because I imagine that for a lot of companies, when you're working together and your accountant is there, you can see people have to actually sign things physically and all of that. It's for them, it might be better to manage their corporate governance. But with everything going virtual now, do you think there are systems that people can build or adjust to help them still get the most out of it?
Yes, they can. So for instance, let's look at something like a disaster recovery. If something was to go wrong, how do we back up our software? Now that we are all going digital, right? How do we then ensure that the data is kept in certain places? Like look at audit firms. I started reaching out to a couple of my friends that still work in audit firms. That how are you guys still able to do your audits? Knowing that everybody, one auditor is in Mowe, another auditor is in Ajah, and for those lockdown period, nobody could go to work. But they were leveraging on the fact that the companies that they were auditing had their numbers in soft copies so that work could go on. So this is a fantastic time to actually transition. This is a fantastic time to start leveraging on let's get our data, let's get our numbers, let's know our customers, let's get all these numbers so that if anything happens, we'll be able to, change, we're able to adapt, we're able to adjust it. So at the end of the day, like you rightly said, corporate governance is literally just corporate governance, but how are we going to turn these knobs? How are we going to turn these keys to actually adapt to what is happening in the markets?
Thank you so much, Tosin. Another thing that I would advise is that, for a lot of companies, conversations are happening, right? Communication is happening. Try to keep a lot of your communication in written form. So via emails, text messages that you can actually bring up when you need them rather than phone calls that might be very hard to keep track of. So thank you so much, guys. We're going on a short break now. We'll be coming back and giving you more on the heart of the matter. Hello, welcome back to Heart of the Matter. We're going to be talking about building a business that actually works for you. If you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it says something about how the real goal is to build a business or make money work for you instead of working for money. So let's talk about how can businesses build sustainable systems that would help you make your business work for you to attain financial freedom. What advice do you have for us, Tosin?
So basically, I'm very happy that we're having this conversation about long term. So we always ask people, are you here for 1 year? Are you here for 10 years? Are you here for the long run? So once you've been able to evaluate that you are actually here for the long run, then you have to put in structure. So the very first one I want to start with is putting in a business structure. So what is a business structure? The minute that business goes away from a one-man business to a limited company, that means that you don't always have to make all the decisions. So what are the processes put in place? Is there a team that manages sales? Is there a team that manages the social media angle? Is there another team that manages accounting? When we are talking about team, it does not even have to be 5 or 3 people. It could even be leveraging on technology. That is why technology is here. You can set certain things. You can use technology to your advantage. You can use technology to buy yourself hands that you don't have to be paying salary every month. So technology is very, very, very key. Leveraging on technology to actually get things done, to be able to do things faster and to be able to do things better. Now, we've spoken a lot about the separation that is Oluwatosin is separated from Money Africa as a company, and every entrepreneur needs to be able to do that so that other people can also be part of the decision making and other people can see to it that the business actually runs properly. This can also be used in conjunction with the corporate governance once we see that separation happens. And once an entrepreneur can hack that thing, then their way to success. Now, another thing to also ask yourself is, what is my succession plan? What if I fall ill? Are there structures in place? Will the company run? If by chance I'm not available in 1 week, will the company run? And if people are answering no to this question, then it's time to go back to the drawing board and actually put in structure in place. Also, if anything happens, who else can actually run that business in my stead? Who can take that decision? All those things should actually be written down. Another thing that we always talk about is bank statements. There was a company that the founder passed on, and they couldn't access the bank account. They finished letter of administration and other things. Now they are taking money from customers. They are taking money from suppliers, and nobody could have access to their account. They had to go through the letter of administration and do all of that before they could have access to it. So why is there not a double signatory? Why is there not somebody else that is also signing besides just the owner? So just putting all those things in place.
Yeah, I really liked your point about technology, because in my working with a lot of businesses that are looking to scale to the next level, I always tell people to sort of look at automation. There are a lot of things that you can automate. There are a lot of processes that you can automate that people do not have to be involved. Because I feel like as a business, if you cannot automate some part of your business, it's very difficult to scale. scale. And you cannot build a business that works for you if you cannot scale that business, if things cannot happen by the numbers. So thank you very much, Tosin. Another thing I want us to look at is post-COVID. What are the investments to make? I know things are not certain yet, but sure, I mean, as a finance person, you can look at the numbers, you can look at what is happening in the world. What investment would you advise that people should start looking at, and the kind of things that will be lucrative moving forward?
Fantastic. I want us to separate it into two. Number one, we have the personal finance investing, so people are investing in their personal capacity. I know we've spoken a lot about separation, so entrepreneurs should pay themselves a salary. This was initially hard for us when we first started. I wasn't paying myself a salary, but I knew that I had to, because we did a research and we're asking people, how did you spend your first salary? Guess what? A lot of people say, oh, I never earned a salary. And many of them were, in short, all of them were what? Entrepreneurs. Because all of them that said, oh, I never earned a salary. If you don't have a salary and you don't have other sources of income, where else is the money you're going to spend come from? Definitely, it's going to be the company's bank account. So that is why we always preach, pay yourself a salary so you can separate. So once that entrepreneur is being paid a salary, they can then invest in their own personal capacity. So we have the personal finance investment, and we also have the company investment. So for instance, a company could be sitting down on money that they don't need yet. Maybe they're only going to place an order to their supplier in the next 3 months, but the money is just sitting down there, jeje, nothing is happening. You have options. So we have the low risk, we have the medium risk, and we have the high risk. So what is a low risk? A low risk basically means that you are ensuring the protection of your capital. You're not too crazy about the returns. Your aim is to ensure that you safeguard your capital. Your capital comes back to you while you also earn some interest. So we have Treasury Bills, we have government bonds, and we also have the money market mutual fund. Now, the thing about these three instruments is that they are relatively safe. Right. So people say that the government is the strongest backer of any security. But if you also look at the Treasury bills in Nigeria, the rates are currently low. So you have options. Can you then look at the government bonds? Government bonds are doing relatively well in comparison to that of the Treasury bills. You're also asking yourself, why not a money market mutual fund? One of the advantages of a money market mutual fund is that people can withdraw it within 3 working days. So it's liquid. You can go in, you can come out. So instead of you just leaving that company money sitting down in your bank account, not doing anything, by putting it into these instruments, your money can work for you. So now, medium risk. What is medium risk? Medium risk basically is like, anything could happen.
Like it could go this way, it could go that way.
It could go this way, it could go that way. So you're actually thinking about it. So you have shares there. So you have, should I buy some shares in this company, should I not? I'm talking about the stock market, right? You also have blue chip companies. So blue chip companies are basically the top ones that have a high market cap. So you're looking at companies like GTB, you're looking at companies like Nestle. You also have your lower tier companies that are not as large as those big companies. But before you invest in these companies, you always have to do your research. And we always advise people that it is not money that you need tomorrow. Let it be money that you don't need for at least 6 months, 1 year, because nobody knows what the market is going to do. As of January, if anybody had told me that the Nigerian stock exchange or even the global stock exchange was going to crash as it did, I mean, they've started coming back up, but nobody saw it coming at that point. So imagine you plan that, this money that I need in March, let me quickly put it inside that market, and then the market happened.
I mean,
exactly. So we always want to say that nothing less than 6 months or 1 year if you're going into the stock market, because you can't predict the market, right? So now high risk. High risk basically are things like cryptocurrency. We always advise people against it. Don't go into that market if you don't understand it. If not, you'll be the fish. So you have to understand. So every time you're putting your money somewhere, please understand the business and do not dabble into it. So you can invest in your personal capacity as a person, or you can also invest as a company. Did you know that McDonald's is actually into a real estate business as opposed to just burger and chips, because of how and where they always position their business?
I've actually heard that story.
So they invested heavily in real estate. Macy's, the store that always sell makeup and clothing and other things, their real estate is also much bigger and larger than their normal everyday revenue. So those are things that companies could also look at. How are you positioning your business? Where do you want to put it? Are you indirectly investing in what? In the real estate market? Are you being very deliberate? If you look at some of these fast food eateries in Nigeria, the location and all of that is that this is a fantastic real estate move. So basically just knowing that you have options, how can we evaluate it, how can we look at it, how can we then invest?
I would like to zoom in a bit, because you talked about businesses. So for some businesses that have had to close down, or for people who are looking to go into businesses, what top 3 industries do you think that people should go into post-COVID? I mean, if you had to make a recommendation.
Okay, number 1 would be the knowledge-based business. People are hungry to learn now that they've ever wanted. But how can you leverage on technology to make that happen? So knowledge business is here to stay. Number two that we are actually seeing is logistics. Now, the thing about logistics is that it seems like the market is saturated, but not many of them have great customer service. If somebody can vouch from that, there's a logistic company out there in Nigeria that would deliver my good on time, that would be cautious, that would meet all this requirement, I'm definitely going to ditch any other person I've ever used and use them. So if anybody can harness their customer service with logistics, boom, it's going to be a winner. And third one that I'm actually also thinking about is actually investing. People now are being reminded of what retirement will look like. People are now concerned about their money because they're like, my goodness, if this thing really happens and I don't have a source of income, is my future sure? They're actually now thinking, how can I start putting money away from my pension? How can I start putting money away from my retirement? How can I start investing strategically? So these three different lines are some of the things I'm seeing that is actually booming when done right.
Yeah, I'm actually quite glad that you mentioned logistics, because as someone who works with a lot of logistic companies, I can tell you for a fact that it's not saturated at all. There's still a lot of demand. In fact, there's a need for a lot of segmentation. For example, I know that a lot of people who deal with like food and, edible things struggle to find logistic companies that can, cater to them personally. So if you're out there and you're looking to set up a logistic company, look out for segmentation, look out for industries that are currently in need of personalized service. Thank you so much, guys. Today we're going to be leaving you with all of this. I hope you've learned one thing or two. We'll see you next time again on The Heart of the Matter.